Today I'm behind the wheel of a brand new 2021 Honda Civic, and unfortunately this 2021 year is the very last year for the 10th generation Civic. Honda plans on debuting a brand new redesigned Honda Civic in 2022. In fact, if you want to see what it looks like, because some pictures have leaked out already, click above right now. So what does that mean for this 2021 model year? Well, not a whole lot. There's no additions, but there are subtractions. For example, the Civic two-door coupe is no longer available. You can't get a two-door Civic anymore. Also, the Civic Si trims for the sedan and coupe, they're both gone. You can't get a Civic Si in 2021. Lastly, the EXL trim for the Civic hatchback, somehow that has been pushed back or delayed, just that specific trim. So there's not any additions, there's just a whole lot of subtractions. However, with that said, the Honda Civic is still a fantastic car. When it comes to the compact sedan segment or the compact hatchback segment, I believe the Honda Civic still sits at the very top of both. So in this review video, let me show you everything there is to know about this brand new 2021 Honda Civic, the inside, the outside, the technology, how it drives, so you can decide if this is the right car for you. All right, let's get started. First, I want to give big thanks to Honda of Laos, which made this video possible. So if you're in the market for a brand new or used Honda, make sure you check them out. Their URL is in the description below. The Honda Civic Sedan received a refresh in 2019, and the hatchback received a refresh in 2020. Nothing changes for this final 2021 year. The front of the Civic still has a low, sleek look with a black grille that stretches from one headlight to the other. There are large black cladding covered openings on the bottom bumper, and only the top Sport Touring trim receives LED headlights. All other trims receive projector beam halogen headlights with auto on-off. And every trim besides the base LX receive fog lights. The side of the Civic hatchback has a unique look due to how the back hatch is designed. On this EX trim, there are standard 17-inch alloy wheels. On the Sport trims, there are 18-inch, and on the base LX, 16-inch. The rear is still the most controversial part to the Civic's exterior. There's a shark fin antenna on top and two spoilers, one on top and one that connects the two LED taillights together. The bottom bumper resembles the front. No exhaust tips on this EX. However, the Sport trims do come with dual tips in the middle. As for the powertrain, there are two engines for the Honda Civic and two transmission options. With the Civic Sedan, the LX and Sport trims receive a natural aspirated 2-liter engine producing 158 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque. On the upper trims of the sedan and all trims on the hatchback, the Civic receives a 1.5-liter turbo engine producing 174 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque. The Sport trims on the hatchback also gets additional 6 horsepower, bumping up the total to 180. As for transmissions, Honda removed the 6-speed manual option from all Civic sedans. CVT is the only option. Luckily with the hatchback, the Sport trim still can be equipped with a 6-speed manual. Alright, I'm on the road. Let's see how good this new Civic is and how it drives. So for me, I'm very familiar with the 10th generation Civic. Over the last few years, I've reviewed pretty much every single trim and variation, from the Sport hatchback to the Type R to the Civic Si coupe to just a LX sedan. I've reviewed every single one. And you know what? After all those reviews, and even today, I still believe the Civic is the best in its segment. I really do. I think Honda nailed it for this 10th generation. The only thing that people could say that's a negative about this 10th generation is the looks. Could be a little bit too polarizing for some, specifically the back. You know, it is very futuristic, polarizing, bold. So the rear is subjective. Some people don't like it, some people love it. So it really depends. But I think the outside looks great. I think it does. And then you move on the inside, man, there's so much cargo room. There's so much. It rivals some smaller SUVs. There's a lot of room back there. You get a spare tire. You also get a privacy cover on top. And the seats fold down. And take a look. When the seats are down, there's a massive amount of room to haul things. So cargo room, plenty of it. Now, what about passenger space? There's also plenty of it. I'm 5 feet 10. You look at me in the back behind my driving position, I still have 3 to 4 inches of leg room and about 2 to 3 inches of headroom, and overall width, shoulder room, hip room. It's good. The seats are comfortable. Plenty of room for adults in the second row, and same thing up here. No complaints. Plenty of headroom, right? Also shoulder room, hip room, decent. It feels good. Now, what about the drive? Fantastic, fantastic. Let me run through the basics. First, visibility. Visibility is really good. I can't see the hood. The hood slopes down really dramatically in a good way, so I can see well past the hood. The windshield is nice and big. Side windows are also big. Blind spot is really, really good, especially on this hatchback. The seat pillar is like pushed all the way back there. There's really no blind spot. Unfortunately, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert is not standard on this EX trim. However, you still get that lane watch system where there's a camera under the passenger mirror. So if you're trying to turn right, the camera will turn on and you can see what's in your blind spot on the 7-inch infotainment screen. So you do get that. The rear visibility is also good. The only thing blocking the rear visibility is the second spoiler. Yes, I said second spoiler because there are actually two. There's a spoiler on top, and then there's a spoiler that connects the two taillights together. So that one does cut into visibility a little bit, but you get like a dual pane look. So you get visibility on top of the spoiler and visibility below the spoiler. It isn't too bad, but I will mention it because the spoiler does cut some of the visibility. But overall, visibility in here, really good. Now, as for these seats, because this is the EX, you don't get the leather trim seats on the EXL, but I mentioned the EXL is somehow delayed for whatever reason. But the EX seats, I like. You know, the cloth is nice and soft. They have a good sporty design, and they're holding me in really well. They're not too aggressive. You know, I'm not a small guy, fairly big guy, and you know what? I'm not really stretching out these seats at all. And the bolsters, the back bolsters, the bottom bolsters, they're comfortable. They fit me well, and overall the seats are very comfortable. And as I'm cruising around town right now, cabin noise, very good, well insulated, no wind noise. Road noise a little bit from the road, a little bit more than I was expecting, but cars passing by also well insulated, and really nothing from the engine or the exhaust. So overall, it's very quiet. And keep in mind, I have the radio off right now. If you're blasting away your music, you're not really going to hear anything. The suspension is also very good. Around town right now, where I'm driving, pretty smooth roads, but I take this route where there are some bad patches, and I'll showcase it again, and I'll talk about it again when I get there. But right now, around where I'm driving, very smooth, very smooth. The suspension and tires, they're soaking up everything. The best part about the Civic has to be the engine. There's one exception though, because on the Civic LX sedan, you're getting a different engine. It's a 2-liter natural aspirated engine, and that's pushing around 150-ish horsepower. And it's okay, but it's a natural aspirated engine, so it takes a while to get into the peak horsepower range, right, or peak torque range. But with all Civic hatchbacks, including the LX, you're getting the optional engine that's on a sedan, the 1.5-liter turbo engine that's producing 174 horsepower. This turbo engine is really good. It's really, really good. You put your foot down, and the Civic really accelerates in a way you wouldn't expect from this segment. I honestly, I'm not exaggerating. Okay, that was acceleration, 15, 20 miles per hour up to 60, and it's good acceleration. It's not the quickest car out there, but because it's a turbo engine, you feel that torque come in right away, and you know what? It gets up to speed really quick. So up to about 40, 45, the Civic hatchback really, you know, got up there quickly, and then it kind of slowed down afterwards. All right, so here you can see the road is a little bit more patchy right? A lot more imperfections here. And the suspension, still doing a good job. Still doing a good job. Of course, a little bit more bumpier in here, but overall, very comfortable. And as I'm coming to a stop here, brakes are predictable. Pretty linear feel. I think a little bit stiffer, just a little bit tad stiffer than, say, a Accord, but overall it's very predictable, very linear, and it's a good feel. It's a good feel. Honda also nailed this center console and armrest area. It's so functional. So if you take a look, there's a floating dual cup holder design that you can move back and forth, and underneath reveals a huge cup holder and also one more USB port. It's kind of hidden in there, but let's say you had a 64-ounce drink or something that just simply can't fit. You could put it on the bottom cup holder. So there's actually 3 technically in here, although 1 is usually covered. And then if you slide the cup holders forward, you can see that there's a lot of space in the back, and also there's a floating, tray for spare change or pens or whatever. And the armrest moves forward and backwards too, and also folds up. So yeah, this design is the best in the segment. It could be the best of pretty much all the cars I've tested, because no one else spends that much time to design their console and armrest like this to make it that functional. Now on this EX trim, this is like right in between. So you have the LX and then the Sport. Sport is very fun, and it's a little bit different because it's more meant to be sporty. But then you got the EX and then the EXL, and then you go move on. So the EX is kind of in the middle, and this is a good trim level because it gives you all the basic stuff that you would want, but doesn't give you too much stuff. For example, you get a sunroof, which is nice. The steering wheel and the shift knob, they're both covered in leather, right? So that's kind of nice. Also, you got power driver seats, 8-way adjustable settings, so that's nice, right? So you do get essentials. Also, you get the 7-inch infotainment screen. This is not the best in the industry. It's not the best by far. It's probably below average, but it gets the job done. It is touch, and you could use your fingers, and there's a few buttons on the side, but it's a little laggy, and the interface is kind of dated. But like I said, it gets the job done. Now on the CX, you don't get navigation, but that's okay because Apple CarPlay, Android Auto are both standard. Same thing with Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, all standard. So that's good. You plug in your phone and just use Apple CarPlay, and that's it. Or Android Auto, and you could get to wherever you want. Also, auto climate control, which is nice. It's actually very nice because surprisingly, there are some cars out there that still doesn't get auto climate control. Like I just tested a base Camry recently, and it did not have it, and it just surprised the hell out of me. So is there anything bad about the Civic? It seems like I've been saying nothing but good things. Well, there's a few things. The infotainment screen I mentioned about already. The interface, how it looks, the size, everything, the functionality of it is a little dated. Not a little dated, but it is dated. Let's just say how it is. It is dated compared to others in this segment. Also, the gauge cluster, I don't mind so much. You have a large gauge cluster, like a large screen in the middle, right? Gives you the essentials, your digital speedometer, digital tachometer. You can scroll through the menus and see your trip computer and essential information like that. I think it looks pretty good still, but you could argue that also looks dated compared to some of the really gorgeous setup that other manufacturers have, right? So yeah, you could say that's a negative. Overall design of the cabin, I think the design of it still is okay, but in terms of the quality, a little lacking compared to others in this segment. Some of the fit and finish, places that you could touch could be a little bit better. So I guess that's a negative. That's about it. There's really not that much to diss or to not like about the Civic. It's a fantastic car. I think Honda just really nailed it. As for safety systems, you know, this Civic still gets Honda sensing, and that's included with all Civics now, so that's really nice. Emergency, you know, braking, warning, lane assist, adaptive cruise control, all standard, all standard. Auto high beam is also standard. The only thing that it's lacking is blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, and I kind of mentioned that already, but you do get that lane watch system, right? That kind of makes up for the lack of blind spot monitoring, kind of. So next up, let me talk about the trim levels and pricing and give you my final thoughts on this brand new 2021 Honda Civic. As for trims, there are 5 to the Civic Sedan. The base LX starts above $21,000, then the Sport, EX, EXL, and finally the Touring, which tops out at $28,000. There are 4 trims to the Civic hatchback, at least for now. As I've mentioned, the EXL is supposed to come out later. The base LX starts at $22,000, and that's slightly more than sedan because it does get a better base engine. Then you have the Sport, the EX, which is the one I'm driving today, and it starts at $24,500. And lastly, the top trim level is the Sport Touring, topping out over $28,400. To conclude, the 2021 Honda Civic is still the best compact sedan slash hatchback despite receiving no additions. The Civic still looks great on the outside, is big on the inside for passengers and cargo, the seats are comfortable and the ride is quiet. The Civic is a blast to drive with the turbo engine, and the CVT transmission is the best in the segment. The Civic is fun to toss around the corners, yet excels as a daily commuter that delivers great fuel economy. The bad on this EX includes no vents or USB ports in the second row, the infotainment screen is dated, and the dash quality and gauge cluster is starting to show its age too. Also, unfortunately, in 2021, the Civic loses the 2-door coupe, the manual in the sedan, the SI trims, and the EXL for the hatchback for now. I'm giving a brand new 2021 Honda Civic EX hatchback a score of 89. To learn more about the Civic hatchback, head over to driversonlyrankings.com to see the written article and to see where the Civic hatchback ranks among its peers. Hit the like and subscribe to the channel and check out these videos.